I'd like to welcome everybody to this Wild Ones meeting of Middle Tennessee chapter. This is the February meeting, of course. I haven't really made this very clear, but the next 3 months we have conflicts on our fourth Monday sort of algorithm for meeting. Next month, they're doing some sort of work here to maintenance work of some kind. So March will be the third Monday. And this is on the events page of our website. So April 15th is going to be the third Monday, and we'll have Joy Boven presenting that night. In May, turns out the fourth Monday is Memorial Day, so it's the first time we've had a hit on Memorial Day since we've been having these meetings since 2018. So we will again do the third Monday in May. And then from June on, we're back to the fourth Monday until we get to the Thanksgiving Christmas mess. And then the fourth Monday starts not working very well. So we do the first, well, it's actually December 9th, the second Monday in December. But all this is on the events tab in the webpage. We have some events coming up. There's a hike in the Bell Forest Cave and Arboretum coming up. In June, we have a tour of Southeastern Grasslands Initiative with a tour of a restored prairie up there. That's joint with the Tennessee Native Plant Society, so you may be hearing about that event twice. But just keep an eye on the events page, and that's where everything kind of lives. And then the newsletters give you annoyingly often reminders, I'm sure. So last year in the spring, a news reporter from Channel 4 News called me and asked me if I'd do an interview. And so, sure, why not? And that's when I first learned about Natives for Native Plants. They were getting ready for their first sale, I believe, in the spring. And so I met with Carly Gordon for about half an hour. She used maybe 35 seconds of copy. But anyway, ever since then, I've been interested in meeting Vika and Bethany. And so now tonight I met them for the first time, even though we've communicated a lot on the email, I guess. And so I'm delighted to have Vika and Bethany here. Vika Pankachar, is an avid gardener, child and adolescent psychologist, and guest lecturer at Vanderbilt University with a heart for nature, people, and education. Bethany Crandall nurtures her 5 kids and many plants. They're both a lot of work, has worked in and out of the nonprofit world for over a decade, and recently completed a Cornell University landscape design certification. So welcome, Vika and Bethany.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for coming. Thanks so much for having us. We're so excited to be here. And really every time, lately I've been around people with the same heart for plants and, native plants in particular. I just get so happy. So I'm already happy starting off today. I want to just kind of start off a little bit. First of all, seeing has anybody heard, has anybody ordered with us before, or is this sort of a first time? Yes, that's right, Patty. Yes. Has anyone heard of us aside from, so a few people have heard of, well, we are kind of new. So we're here to tell you a little bit about our story of what we do and where we are at this point. So here's the beginning. Let's see if I can make this work. Yeah. So the original neighbors for native plants really are Bethany, myself, and then our friend Laura, who connected us because we both knew Laura. We didn't know each other yet. The things we share are that we are all passionate about nature and gardening and just really excited about really once we've learned, and I think you learned about it a little bit before I did, but once we learned about the important role of native plants in just life, but we've just been really excited about doing something with that knowledge. And once we knew what we knew, we're like, well, how can we make sure as many people as possible become aware of this? Because it's such I think for a lot of us, it's hidden. People don't know about it. And luckily that's changing because
you guys know about it.
Yeah, you guys know about it. So we knew we didn't have to put in a bunch of slides about why are native plants important, because we're, obviously we're very familiar with that. So we also have busy lives. We have jobs, we have our kids, we have lots of other responsibilities. But because of that, really, we were thinking, how can we connect with people who are in the same position? They're busy, they've got a lot of other stuff to do, but they also want to do something to make a difference. And we live in the same neighborhood. We both live in East Nashville. So we're kind of like, okay, the neighbors part was set and the native plants part, so it kind of came together. So really this is sort of that picture. Wait, I can do this thing now. The bubble. Oh yeah, there we go. This picture is really when, well, actually, I don't need this bubble. You guys probably all have read Doug Tallamy's book, and probably more than this book. He's just an incredible writer and researcher. And once I read that book, I thought, whoa, my life felt different. And I know you felt the same way. And then we were hanging out by the fire thinking, what could we do to actually like put these thoughts into action, like to do something with it. So we kind of decided, let's like put our heads together and do something about it. So we wanted to try to figure out how to make as many residential yards as possible contain native plants. And a few things were important for us. We wanted to make sure that things would be easy to do for people, not overly expensive, and just like a good fit for our areas. So we kind of wanted to do the research for people. Instead of having people figure the stuff all out on their own, we were excited enough to say, we're going to do this for you. And then it's going to be easy for you to kind of get that information. Really, education is a big part of what we hope to do. So like, yes, we offer native plants, but we don't really care if you buy them from us or if you buy them from somewhere else. The most important part is like making you aware of their importance. And then of course, through making people aware, we're hoping to create community around native plants. And so one of our goals, thinking about it, was, you guys know about the importance of connected areas of land and corridors and such. So we hoped to expand existing green spaces such that they would be bigger through yards, 1 yard at a time, so to speak. We were also hoping, like, can we possibly connect green spaces by having yards kind of, between the two of them. And then we were just like hoping to generate or strengthen pollinator pathways, making sure that as much as possible, migrating creatures and such can make their way and have enough places to stop for fuel. One thing I also learned is that we are all patient. This is good. Okay, so
Pollinator pathways.
yes, pollinator pathways. I think we talked about that.
Yeah.
Wait, it's not responding. Okay, here we go. So let me see if I can get this whole thing gone. I don't know if you can see the sliding part on it, but our first round of trying to put together some plants for people to buy was last time this year. And in terms of selecting our plants, there was a few questions that sort of drove us. So first of all, of course, is this plant native to our area? Then we really were inspired by Doug Tallamy's keystone species and decided to kind of select within that. We also wanted to think about we wanted to kind of pick easy plants so that people would have success, and plants that can handle dry soil, like different kinds of moisture levels. And we initially also tried to go with different kinds of sun exposures. We also wanted to make sure the plants wouldn't get too big, because we didn't want to get sort of like people who are new to this to immediately get in trouble with codes. We just wanted to make it easy. And then we were also at that time hoping to find plants that were like pretty deer resistant, rabbit resistant, and then everything got eaten up. But yes, so those were some of our initial criteria. All right. I think.
Yep.
Did I switch to it early?
No, you're right. Can you click for me?
It doesn't. Oh, it does.
Okay. So some of you may have been here before. Doug Tallamy had an assistant and she worked to get a bunch of data, and the National Wildlife Federation has this finder, and you can plug in your zip code and it will tell you the top plants that you should plant kind of in order based on number of species supported. So we use that. You also read in, I think, the Native Plants of Tennessee. You did some side research too to pick the plants, but this was a helpful simplifier for us. Okay. And we were trying to remember which plants we offered last spring, because that was a whole year ago. We ordered from a couple different places and we had to substitute some plants. So we had a few different goldenrods, a few different sunflowers, one of which got like 8 feet tall. So not all of them were short, but they ended up being very beautiful and we got some good pictures of them anyway. And then we did, I think, sweet brown-eyed Susan and black-eyed Susan. So we, this truly was just like started ground up. We wrote out which friends of yours do you think would want this? And then we powwowed that. We sent people who were interested a link to a Google form, which was great when we were small. And then it got pretty complicated pretty fast in the fall. We gave people a range of cost to expect because we didn't know how much it was going to cost. But we knew the more people bought in, the cheaper we would get the plants. And we only gave our order window 1 week time, mostly because we were kind of scrambling. It was March already and it was the growing season was kicking.
No, we didn't realize like at that time that you have to order the plants quite a bit before. you
Quite,
get the
quite a
plants.
bit, or grow them yourself. But yeah, that we were just learning as we went. We got them from 3 different nurseries. One of them I really recommend, if you want 5 plugs at a time, it's not on the slide, but they're called the Pollen Nation in New Jersey. And they're a good middle ground if you don't want 50 of one species, but you want more than just one. So that they were a really good resource at that stage of the game. After we closed the sale, we determined the true cost per order and charged exactly that amount, and people just Venmo'd us for their plants.
Yeah, and I will say, look, we ended up not giving everyone exactly the same plants because they would run out of plants. And we didn't know how many people were gonna order, so it was kind of like, oh, we got a bunch of order. Okay, I think we can get a flat of these. But then they would say, oh, we don't have those flats anymore. So then we would sort of shift around. So it was definitely like we were reacting, but we had no idea how many people were actually gonna wanna have plants. So we stayed within the Keystone family for the most part. And we had one type of milkweed that didn't do much for anyone.
Yeah.
I think.
Laurel milkweed, I'm sure challenging in this
was
area.
challenging.
So
And actually-
beautiful,
Yeah,
but
it
that was
was a little bit
not our winner.
water maybe.
Yeah,
But so
that's
yeah.
right. Yeah, so we ended up with 46 families bought in and we got 580 plants in the ground and I made this little video. That's it. So that was, we had a little pickup party at Bika's house and Laura's husband, who has terminal cancer, which is partly why Laura isn't here right now. He played music and it was just very beautiful and kind of the side goal of community building, I feel like, was achieved on that day. So.
All right, yeah, we had a blast. And then we were like extra excited because it worked. You know,
Yes.
it's like, what? This is amazing. So this, Bethany has a friend who does some map making magic. And Sarah was so kind to offer us her time and she said, yeah, I'll put some dots on a map, you know? And so basically we asked people, can we use your address? It'll just be a dot, you know, you won't be identified, but the green dots, oh, here, this is where this will actually be helpful. The green dots are existing natural areas like parks and such. And then the blue dots are the ones that were added because people ordered native plants from us. Now, of course, this is not including all the other people who are already using native plants, but we just wanted to have some kind of visual depiction of it. And we were pretty excited. So there were, of course, lessons learned.
So many.
We learn a lot of lessons every time we do this. And this is only our 3rd time, so who knows what's going to happen in the future. But first of all, not all the plants shipped when they're supposed to ship. So we had our big pickup time. And we didn't have all the plants there because the nurseries would promise a certain day of delivery and then something happened and then they wouldn't. So
I think we almost cried.
we got close. There was a little bit much at times. So Bethany actually ended up driving around all those poor little plants that arrived late. So, which was super awesome, but also a lot of driving. And we did at that time allow early and late pickups. You know, so if people, like if we got some plants early, people could come get them early. If they, you know, like wanted us, they're out of town, they wanted us to hold on to them for a week or so, we would hold on to them. We also in our ordering process did not think about like duds. Like we did not think about like you order 50 plants, we think you get 50 plants that are healthy and thriving. That's not really true. So we learned.
There, mostly it was okay, but there
Oh,
were just a few that were struggling.
Yes, except for the world milkweed, which there was a lot who didn't wake up from their winter nap. So we also really just like the cost of the plants was exactly what we paid for it. We didn't count, you know, we didn't calculate in like any operating expenses. We, you know, just was like, come on, like how cheap can we get this? This is amazing. And then also we were really, and maybe this is like somewhat my fault because I feel like you tried to talk me off that ledge a few times, but we really almost encouraged people to tell us what their preferences would be. You know, so if we had these species available, like we're like, yeah, just let us know if you want some kind of custom something. And then also once we got the plants, you know, we were basically giving people groups, you know, different, like a few plants of each species. And we were like cutting into, you know, I don't know how many of you has anyone cut into flats? It's not fun, you know, and so we were like getting all blistered up and whatnot because we were trying to cut all these flats into the right shapes. And of course, then in the end, you can almost see it in this, like some of these pictures, like there's like different shapes, sizes, they're falling over, we're taping them together. It was sort of an adventure. So those were some of the lessons we learned. So between the spring and the fall, and actually Carly Gordon, that interview happened before our pickup, but like after our initial sale had ended, we were just trying to kind of get the word out. We thought, you know, this was so fun to do this for 46 families, like maybe we can reach, I don't know, 60 families next time. So we decided to get like a little bit more official, you know, social media presence. Bethany does so well with our social media presence. Then the interview with Carly, you know, we built a website, and we also for the fall got the word out like through a newsletter, the Friends of Shelby newsletter. And of course, since Shelby Park is one of the areas that we are hoping to expand through residential yards, that was a good.
And this is where the neighbors comes in because Carly's friends with your husband and you knew Rebecca through Shelby.
Yes.
So it's helped
Yes.
pre-existing relationships all out.
Right. And Carly did the interview. And then I happened to see her at the Tomato Art Fest. I don't know if any of you've been there, but East Nashville has an art fest in August, very hot. But she was presenting something and I saw her and I said, oh, hey, Carly, how's it going? And she said, are you still in that plant thing? I was like, absolutely, we're getting ready for our fall sale. And then she said, well, do you want me to run it again on the news? And I said, absolutely. So she did. And we actually had several other people that came from much further than we expected. And they came because they had seen it on the news.
A lot of people were texting us like, I saw it in the news. So I think the afternoon slot is a good one if you ever need to do PR.
Yeah,
to get in the
absolutely.
afternoon.
Yes, and then Bethany reached out to Second Sunday Gardeners and other groups that were potentially interested. This was this for? Okay,
Yep.
great.
So same general thought process for the fall selection. We did, I think more about what we've had success with in our own yards this time around and just feedback we got from people from the first round. And we were like, hey, let's add some shrubs because it's fall and it's a good time to plant shrubs and they get big. So they're really supportive of life. And we didn't realize that everything you add when you grow really fast creates many more hours of work, but I don't regret it. So yeah, these questions are all the same. So we decided on these 4 for our sun options. We had Eastern bee balm, supports 9 species. Butterfly weed supports 11. Narrowleaf mountain mint. Didn't we also do cluster? There were 2 mountain mints. Yeah, Mudicum and Tenwifolium. And yeah, that one supports 4 species, but at the Cedars of Lebanon sale, they had some handouts and UT did a study of pollinator visits to plants. You guys have probably read some of these, but mountain mint was like their #1 visited plant. And that's been my experience in my garden. So we were like, let's get that in there. And then blue wild indigo, because it's beautiful, and 17 species. So you guys have probably all grown. Most of these are all these.
And these numbers, we're getting these numbers from that website we mentioned. So putting in our zip code, looking at these species and looking at how many caterpillars and moths, use that as a particular host plant.
And it's fun to go in there because they have the pictures of the moths and stuff, so
And
you can
also
see.
click on the particular moth or butterfly, and then it'll show you all the plants that it can use. And sometimes there's only one kind of plant, and sometimes it's more, but it's really neat. And then for shade.
Yeah, for shade, we did columbine, even though that's pretty ubiquitous, but people like it and it blooms pretty early. So 8 species for that. Bride's feather, beautiful name, beautiful plant. 2 species. Wild blue phlox, 6, and whitewood aster. Yeah, we could not find specific data, but it is is that a related one? Sorry, I didn't read that one. Yeah, 6 species. So we also, when we're picking these, we're trying to cover a range of bloom times. So we're trying to get, make sure that we've got early spring to late fall when possible. Because some of these people have no plants in their yard. And so this is going to be the first thing that they're putting in. And just beauty wise, it's really fun and exciting to see something blooming over time. So that's another part of our process. So the logistics. We reached a much larger target audience. So we're just buying these flats on our credit cards and hoping that people will make good on their ordering, because it was just a Google Doc. They weren't paying us up front. So it was like thousands of dollars going up and up and up. And we were like, okay, good problem, but really overwhelming too. We gave people a set price because we had a better idea of what to charge. We worked with just one supplier, Izell Native Plant Wholesale. They work with a bunch of nurseries, and then you can go through them without a wholesale license. And they were on time with all their deliveries, very reliable. Yeah, so I actually called the woman who runs the sales, and she's like, okay, here's what you need for cutting flats. And she gave us all this info. She's like, well, poultry scissors, chicken cut for cutting raw chicken. She's like, OXO brand, they're on Amazon. So we got 3 of those. It still hurts some, but it was way better. Yeah, the flats weren't cracking. Yeah, so those are great. And she sold us tags because we were handwriting on every tape the first time around. And so this time we could put tags in. I feel like this is kind of boring, but this is what you have to do when you're scaling up. We worked in a margin of error, probably about 5%, I think, which felt, once we started getting into hundreds of plants or thousands of plants, that felt kind of expensive to calculate for 5%. So we probably ended up doing maybe more 3%. I don't know. We didn't really study that after the fact. And then we got a grant through the Nashville Earth Day Fund to just give each family who participated 1 free shrub, and people still Venmoed us for their plants, and almost everybody came through, which is great. A few people canceled, which is understandable.
By the way, we're just kind of going on and on. Do you guys have any questions so far? Oh, thank you. Yes.
I feel like I'm looking at Vika a lot too.
So no questions so far? Oh, yeah.
Let's see, is this on? Yeah, so one trick that Paul and I came up with was, instead of using the poultry shears, to use some offset tin snips. They kind of come out at an angle so you're not bloodying your fingers as you go across. And it wasn't great, but it seemed to be better than the poultry shears.
Okay. We will try that out.
Yeah.
Home Depot.
Nice.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
That's great.
All right. So, we decided to take a fun road trip. So we went to McMinnville, and we ended up picking up 400 shrubs of various species. So initially,
Patty gave us this connection.
thank you.
Yeah.
So initially we thought okay, we decided to go with a witch hazel, and we were going to just get 2 different varieties of witch hazel. And then he ran out because our numbers kept growing, and he's like, well, I don't have that many, but I got all of our other fun stuff. So we were like, you know what? let's do it, because in the process, we're gonna give all of the creatures more variety, right? So we were excited about that and ended up driving home with a bunch of plants. So in the end, we worked with 220 families. We've got a total of, I hope that everyone planted their plants, but if they did, a total of 4,000 plants in the ground. So that was 400 shrubs and 360 perennials. And we were, what did I say?
You said
360. Yes,
360.
thank you. 3,600 perennials. And it was so exciting. And also there were several lessons learned. This is like basically at the part of the pickup event, and the kids are like making clay pots just to keep themselves entertained while the adults are doing all the plant stuff. So this is what happened to our map. So this is kind of a zoomed in version, but after you put all the other dots on there, our pollinator pathway is kind of like starting to happen. And we also realized, and we were just talking about this recently, that just how some of these dots are all clustered kind of East Nashville, but there's also dots that are further away. And we're excited to know that people from farther away communities are interested and are even willing to drive to come get these plants. So again, many lessons learned. I would actually say that our last round was sort of most educational for us. Because first of all, we had a little bit of post-traumatic stress from like the orders not being there in time. So we decided, let's just get them all to my house like 2 weeks before we have our pickup event, because that way we know we have them. And the shrubs, we even got 3 weeks in advance, and it was quite hot. And so what happened was it took a lot of ongoing effort for us to keep everything looking really good. And then fall was coming, so some of the shrubs ended up going dormant. So that was just a lot. And even like just, so all the shrubs were at Bethany's and all the perennials were at my house. And, my porch could no longer be used. There was plants inside at times. So there was a lot going on there. Also the custom orders, again, I take that responsibility, but the custom orders was just kind of very time consuming, because people would be like, I like these plants from your sun section, but like, I really want these from your shade. I mean, there was just a lot of trying to put things together, trying to keep people happy, because we wanted everyone to be excited and happy, but it was just a lot of extra time. We had a total of 5 people that were helping us, which was incredible. And we could not have done it without them. But we sort of were thinking, we went to that Cedars of Lebanon plant sale, and there were, I don't know, 30 or 40 volunteers at least.
Yeah.
And so we were like, okay, next time we need more than 5 volunteers. So we ended up actually as part of the process, that was all that happening at the same time, we realized like, if you have like, I don't know, $16,000 in Venmo coming your way, then that might kind of raise some flags. And so we thought like, okay, we need to become sort of more something official. Even with the Earth Day grant, they were like, okay, well, we're going to give you this grant. And then, okay, what's your tax ID number? So we were like realizing like, we have to get more organized. So
Neither of us wanted to do that stuff because it's boring.
we just don't love
tedious.
paperwork.
Yeah, who does? But
So yeah, we
we had
decided
to go through that.
yes.
hurdle.
We went to the other nice thing about it is that if you are a nonprofit, you don't have to pay sales tax if you do up to 2 sales a year. So we were trying to, again, keep our expense low for all of our neighbors. And so that's one way to do that. We still allowed early and late pickups. And initially the early ones we were kind of excited about, because we're like, gosh, if 220 people show up at the same time, that's going to be intense. So the early ones were okay, but then there was a lot of people who somehow forgot the pickup date and were kind of nonchalant about the fact that they hadn't picked up their plants, would say, I'm going to pick them up tomorrow, then sort of bail. Like there was just a lot of that going on. And of course, where I live and where Bethany lives, like there's a lot of deer. So there's no way you can leave those plants outside overnight and be safe. They're probably going to be eaten. So every day, like at the end of the day, bringing everything back in. So that was like, suboptimal, I would say, less efficient than you could be. And then also just like storing the plants was tricky to walk around and whatnot. And then what we realized too is that not all growers are equal. And so some of our growers, when those boxes arrived, the plants were in beautiful condition. Some of those, the plants were like smushed. And so luckily we had them a little bit in advance. And so they could kind of get all their oomph back, but it was still a big difference, which made us realize the plants we got from Kind Earth growers were like by far like the sturdiest ones and the healthiest looking ones. So now we know that we're gonna go with Kind Earth growers. Is it your turn?
Sure. Okay. We tried to do 4 and 4. Once again, the same general questions. This is for this spring. We're taking a break from shrubs, just to kind of simplify, and it's not a great time to plant them anyway. We wanted to add grasses. Both native forbs and grasses store carbon, so we went and researched that. Sometimes people think it's just grasses, but so all of it is actually doing carbon storage too, which I have added to the website. But we specifically wanted to only order from Kind Earth so that we have that solid growth success. And so this is what's currently available. Blue-eyed grass. I'm excited about that because it's hard to find blue flowers, as you know. We've pretty much had a goldenrod every time because they're just so, I know they're everywhere, but they're so supportive and just great for life. Swamp milkweed, switchgrass, great blue lobelia. With the milkweeds, we've gone back and forth on common milkweed, but it's such a spreader and we don't want beginning gardeners to get stressed out by it. So yeah, blue stem goldenrod, foxglove beard tongue, eastern bottlebrush for the shade. So yeah, nectar source early in the year for the blue-eyed grass. 90 species on the goldenrod, 11 species on the swamp milkweed, 26 species on the switchgrass, and 6 on the foxglove beard tongue, 5 on the great blue lobelia, 2 on the eastern bottlebrush grass, but it's beautiful. It's a beautiful plant and it should do well in shade, and 90 on the goldenrod. So once again, we have kind of leveled up. We figured out how to do an online shopping cart. There's a really great program called Zephy for nonprofits, and they take no money. You can just choose to donate to them at checkout if you want to. So I think they're from Quebec or somewhere in Canada, but it's been a great program to use. Highly recommend it. So that also saves money on the kits costs to the buyers. We have a nonprofit bank account. We now that Izal, the supplier, knows us, we don't have to use our credit card on the front end. They're just putting the flats on hold for us. And then as many plants as we sell, we get to order, and then we can release the others to them and they will find other buyers for them. So that's a huge, huge stress off our shoulders.
Yeah, 'cause last time we were ordering, as the orders were coming in, we're like, oh my gosh, I have to put in another order. And so we're just hoping that the plants wouldn't run out. So it was much like right now we're kind of chill.
Yes.
You know, we have a certain number of plants on hold and we'll see what happens.
Yep. And one thing I know, we've contacted the Tennessee Department of Agriculture, or because usually they have to check out your plant sales to make sure you don't have fire ants in your plants and stuff. But because we are not potting them up at all, we're just literally taking them from the grower to the consumer. We don't have to get inspected. So that's a nice side effect of how we stumbled into doing it. Yes, the plants are going to arrive the week of the event, so we don't have to run nurseries in our houses for 3 weeks. And we're going to cut the flats with power saws because
This time we're just gonna, she's actually
My-
trying to get her.
my husband has yeah, it's the one you pulled down. But we sat there and we figured out like Tetris how to get, so the kits are going to be, yes, it's going to be a very thin blade, and then I'm gonna, it'll take a little finagling, but I think it'll work. We had leftovers and I practiced on it. So everything's going to fit really well. And that will also be easier for volunteers to put everything because it's going to be an assembly line.
I don't think we have this on a slide, but what we found out is just like like you saw in the first slide where everything's different size. Well,
Yes.
last season in the fall, we realized, look, we wanted all deep plugs because we thought that's gonna make things easy. Deep plugs all. Well, it turns out that these growers use a hexagonal deep plug. These guys use a square deep plug. And so we couldn't.
One went in the other, but the other one didn't go in the
And
other
this
one.
is just a silly detail, but like this time, we're like, no, we need them all to be the same size, so we can easily, if you have a flat of 50, we can easily pop out however many we need for an order and then mix and match.
Which again, all these things, if you have just 40 families, it's not a big deal, but when you scale up, you have to, every step really affects how many hours you're putting in. We have partnered with Metro Parks to have the pickup at Cornelia Fort. There's going to be enough parking. A lot of people know where that is. It's a happy place. The kids can play on the playground. They're going to come in a big pallet to protect the plants. I think we're going to rent a forklift. Her husband's on that. And then Friends of Shelby is almost kind of doing it in conjunction with us. And we are, that's on another slide, but we are fundraising for them in our cart checkout. So people can purchase plants for Shelby now. And they're going to pick some other species too that they don't have. So that's really exciting to me to know that more species will be there. And
Real
Yeah,
quick,
keep- no, that's fine.
just thinking about, remember the deer? There's deer at Shelby, but we get to put our plants in there. You know how the Cornelia Fort is an old airport, right? And so they have those big hangers with big sliding doors, and we get to put our plants inside. So like that, they're only gonna be there for like 2 or 3 days max, but they'll be protected from deer the whole time that they're there. And then the day of, we put them outside, people get them, and nothing should be nibbled.
yeah, because even moving him from her porch to the front, when you have that, yeah, every step was a lot more work. And we hope to work with lots of volunteers, if any of you feel like it, just to label the plants, get them in the plugs, and then we're gonna have a pizza party afterwards, and we will give away free plants to anyone who volunteers. So that's that plan.
By the way, any questions, guys? You guys are such yes, on our website, we do.
But when they're at the plant sale, there's some kind of a handout. People go home, put their plants around and then register the garden.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. Right, we were thinking of having several things of information like available, so people, even like a QR code, so people can just like scan and then go look at it at home, but that's a good idea. I like that.
That's pretty prominent on the website,
Mhm.
and we promote them on our Instagram. So yeah, sorry. Prominent on our website, we promote it on our Instagram. A lot of people have read the book already. I blanked on what I was gonna say as I came over. So.
But yeah, the registering,
Route Nashville, yes. Route Nashville had a table at our fall pickup for free trees, and our neighborhood tree captain was there. So, and as many of those things as possible, we would like to have out.
absolutely, absolutely. Go ahead.
Smart, you see Smart Yard website. Also, it's for this area.
Yes, yes. So Julie Barbiglia is our kind of connection point. She actually lives in our neighborhood, and she's gonna volunteer putting plugs in the car. She knows a ton of people. So yeah,
Yeah,
she's a fan.
we've I call it cross-pollinating. We've promoted their stuff and they've promoted ours.
Yes, because she was excited that people that were interested in what we were doing, she was hoping they might be interested in what she's trying to do. And so we've kind of shared, and I think she's gonna mention us on the newsletter that she's sending out this week.
Rebecca Ratz, Friends of Shelby, bought some shade plants in the fall, a big order, and then she planted them at, what's it called? Cave Spring?
Cave Springs at Shelby. I don't know, is
There's a
anyone
neat
in East
little-
Nashville? Or are you guys familiar with Shelby Park? Yes, well, there's like an area that has sort of recently been like kind of,
Restored.
yeah, restored, and there's spring, and it's a shady area, and so there's a bunch of our shade plants that are gonna be coming up soon.
Question from the Zoom crowd.
Okay.
When is the sale?
So the sale is happening right now. And-
I put the web link in the chat.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, the sale is happening right now, and we are probably this is a little bit nebulous, but we're probably gonna cut off the orders around the 20th of March. But right now, it's like, before we said it, you have to, this is the deadline, and we would just order until then. But right now, we know we have a hold on a certain amount of plants. So we're kind of like, if we hit that, then we are gonna talk to Izell about do they have more plants available? But if not, we'd have to like end it when, we run out of plants.
But the pickup day is April 21st, day after Earth Day.
Yes, that's right. Did you have? Oh, sorry. There was another question. It's not really a question, but the National Tree Conservation Board there's will be a process of signage that's happening. Just wondering if connection there.
We've got them on our website. I think we have almost every Earth-based nonprofit on our Explore area, but it would be great to connect with them because we were learning about how the caterpillars fall out of the trees and you want soft landings. So we would love to at least tell them about Izell and they could maybe get some plants for that. That would be great. Thanks. Oh, yeah. And then because of the deep roots, trees are protected from drought and heat waves more when there's perennials and shrubs around their base. So as climate change continues and we get these heat waves, I'm excited that homeowners could potentially save some of their trees long-term by getting these plants in their yards too. So as you know, so many benefits.
Right. So, these are our hopes, because we're sort of just jumping into this next season. We hope that we can find hands that are interested in helping us. We also just hope that we can continue sharing our passion. We're excited. We love talking to people and getting them excited too. We hope that things go smoothly without too many hurdles, but you know what? Every time we've had hurdles, we've learned stuff, so that's okay. And then, Bethany already mentioned, we're hoping to donate some plants to Shelby Bottoms as well. And so we've talked to the person who runs the nature center there, and he had specific interests for certain areas that are maybe some of them are more protected from deer, because they didn't really, he said, well, we can't really protect from deer in the park, but there are certain areas closer to the nature center that might be a good spot. And he was interested in specific species. We just want to keep inspiring people in general, and maybe even inspiring people to do the same thing we're doing in our neighborhood in other neighborhoods. So like, we hope to, if anyone's like, well, what program do you use? And we are happy to share everything that we've learned, because we're just hoping that more people kind of take these types of initiatives. Kind of that feeling of like, with all these native plants, differences can be made, obviously. We just a few sort of like, what we want to do now is share a little bit of the things that people have shared with us that sometimes, brings warmth to our heart, but like one of our friends was really, really excited that like after planting her first native plants, like she saw monarchs arriving.
It's a video.
Oh, it is.
It's like 2 seconds, but she was so proud and I was so happy. And it was just your first monarch. That's wonderful. And it was there. That's her baby, and that's her native plants back there in the picture. So
very cool.
Yep.
And then really, there's a lot of words here. Feel free to read them. But one of the things that we've gotten, like feedback we've gotten, is that so many people have gotten excited about sharing this with their kids. And so part of the hope is that as our kids become more aware of this, they're going to be sort of this different generation that hopefully is sort of, big advocates of native plants, but also like becomes the norm, as opposed to like fancy ornamentals from Asia or whatever. Like, I hope that our kids like don't even look at those and have that passion for native plants.
we've had some elementary schools purchase plants, Warner, and my son goes to Inglewood. So I've got a garden going there. And then the PTO grounds coordinator from Stanford Montessori wrote me, and she's really excited. So any other elementary school connections you have, if you want to send them our website, that's a great way, obviously, to get them in front of many children. And we have 700 Instagram followers. We just hit that. And we're not active on there all the time, mostly when we're doing the sale. We try to post educational things like, hey, hasn't rained for a while. Let's remember to water for the newbies. But we do repost things from other people, and we've promoted the Wild One sales on there. And we just try to find reliable sources to have good quality information. And these are just some quotes you can read, really good feedback we've gotten from the first round. So we've just gotten a lot of good feedback, I would say. That's been really super, super rewarding. Sure. I was reading it in my mind.
I was.
And yet finally, this was maybe a big one for me because I'm prone to anxiety, but it really has helped with our and our neighbors' climate anxiety. Having concrete steps that we can take to counteract biodiversity losses is healing and psychologically bolstering. I know you've all experienced that. And we've gotten quotes from people saying that. Sometimes it feels overwhelming knowing how to help the planet. It's nice to be part of something that makes a difference in your own backyard. And then this was a little Instagram repost we just got. Somebody said they take comfort in small, hyper-local good things. Nashville, here's one idea. So that just made me tear up. And then we've had friends lose plants in, tornado, drought, freeze, derechos, and everyone now has room in their yards. And lots of people want to do natives. Until Joy opened Wonder, it was hard for people to find them. I think Bates, we'll have a few here and there, but unless you're willing to delve into online ordering, it's hard to source stuff locally. So I really feel like we've filled a niche there. So niche. Yeah, that's our info.
All right. What other questions come to mind if you guys have any? I know this was kind of businessy. I hope you don't mind, but we knew we didn't have to talk to you about why you should plant native plants. So we wanted to just explain how we did it. And I don't know, does anyone feel inspired to do this in their neighborhood now? Or do you feel more like, oh, that's a lot of work? I hope we didn't lay that out too thick because it did feel like a lot of work this fall, but we both feel much
We
more.
also opened ourselves up to that. Like
We did.
we were like, let's do it. We just kept saying yes. And then we were like falling into bed covered in dirt. And my husband was like, why didn't you take a shower? And I was like, I'm too tired. So you could keep it small and more
Absolutely.
local and just get 3 flats of 3 species and Venmo with your neighbors. And it's very doable and easy. And Izel is, I don't know if we wrote them out, but
Oh,
it's
I don't know if we did either.
Izel native-
IZEL.
IZEL native plants.
Yeah, Richard.
So I'm familiar with ISL and kind of growers.
Mhm.
How did you come across kind of growers yourself? Discover them because they're a supplier to ISL?
Yes, yes. And so, when you go on ISL's website, there's actually a lot of great information. And one of the, sometimes you can pick which nursery you want or which grower you want the plants to come from. And sometimes that was just necessity. We're like, well, we need a few more of these. So, okay, we'll go with this, we'll go with that. So we had 3 or 4 different nurseries that were, I keep saying growers that were going through ISL. And that's kind of how we saw kind of growers stand out.
But we probably should get a wholesaler license and just purchase direct from Kind Earth at this point to save even more. However, we now have a working relationship with ISL. They've been great and I like supporting them too. So
Kind Earth is very nice to work with. It's a small nursery.
So I've been on the ISO website and their plugs are fairly expensive as plugs go. And so how did you, I realize if you're a wholesaler, you can get a really good price on plugs, but if you're like me, wanting to buy plugs for your yard, you have to buy 50.
right.
And that's a bit of a problem.
Yeah, that's where
My yard is big enough, but
right.
it's still, the 50 is more
Oh, it's so many.
expensive per plug than I would really like to pay because I know I get them a lot cheaper.
Okay, yeah, I don't know how they compare to pollination. but they have a $75 minimum order and you have to have at least 5 of each species. So that.
Drop Seed Nursery up in northern Kentucky is really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, round seed,
No, Drop Seed.
drop seed.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very good.
Okay.
I don't think I know.
Um,
I've seen them, but I haven't looked at their
Okay.
stuff. Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah, and when you order like a certain number of flats, there are certain discounts connected with that.
Yes, that did that. We hit such a high volume that we got like max discounts, which
Mm.
was good.
But you can't, but if you give them then a separate order that you also want to add to your order, it's a separate order and you have to meet the same criteria of having this number of flats. So, you know, you
Yeah.
gotta be clever about it.
And I think we're gonna have some extra species for sale on the day of, because over half the people who've purchased so far have expressed interest in picking up more on the day of. So keep your eye out for that. Maybe some Culver's root.
Oh, great question. Yeah, so our volunteer coordinator is Laura, who's not here, but who was pictured. I'm trying to think what the easiest way would be. Because she has like a sign up thing, and I think that should we just take emails?
Wild Ones is planning on making those Wild Ones
E-
assisted events, not our event, but Wild Ones assisted. So we will have information on our events page.
Just email us right here, the n4nativeplants@gmail.com, and say, I would like to volunteer, and then we'll give it to Laura.
Good idea, yeah. Was there anything that you guys thought was like weird or surprising or like, well, that's not a good idea? Like, is there anything that you can teach us? Because you all obviously have a lot of experience with native plants. I'm kind of curious what we can take away from your knowledge.
Really appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank you.
It was really inspirational to see a neighborhood do this and with your leadership, but I really appreciate you sharing this. It was so inspirational.
Well, thank
you.
you. Thank you.
One of my favorite quotes that applies to this was Barack Obama saying, enthusiasm makes up for a host of deficiencies. So we were just like, hey, we haven't been gardening that long and we read some books, but let's go because it's time. So yeah. I was nervous to talk in front of you guys because you guys know a lot. So thank you for listening to us.
Thanks so much.
Let's thank our speakers once again. Donnie brought some seed. He is offering for anyone who wants it, sort of a swap without having a collateral. Right.